The Apex-15X is a gaming laptop from Aftershock using the popular Tongfang chassis, and it's now been updated to include Nvidia's RTX graphics, so just how well does it perform in games? I've benchmarked 17 different games at all setting levels to show you how well it runs and compared it with some other laptops to help you decide if it's a laptop you should consider buying. Just quickly before we jump into the benchmark results, I'll cover off the specs in my unit. There's an Intel i7-8750H CPU, Nvidia RTX 2070 Max-Q graphics, and 16GB of memory running in dual channel. However, you've got a few options to pick from when configuring it, including more memory or RTX 2060 graphics, so expect different results with different configurations. I was running Windows 10 with these Nvidia drivers, and just as a reminder, we're only looking at gaming performance in this video. If you're new here, get subscribed for the upcoming full review. Battlefield 5 was tested in campaign mode and not in multiplayer mode, as it's easier to consistently reproduce the test run. The purple bars show the results with ray tracing disabled, while the green bars show RTX on. The results with RTX on were good at low and medium, and it was kind of playable at higher settings. Personally, I prefer higher frame rates for a first-person shooter though, so I'd leave RTX off there. Apex Legends was tested with either all settings at maximum or all settings at the lowest possible values, as it doesn't have predefined setting levels. The game played smoothly for me even maxed out, and was just able to average 100 frames per second. Metro Exodus was tested using the built-in benchmark, which performs worse than actual gameplay, making this more of a synthetic test rather than indicative of actual game performance. Far Cry New Dawn was tested with the built-in benchmark as well, and over 60 FPS was still possible with ultra settings. Far Cry 5 was also tested with the built-in benchmark, and performed a bit better than the newer Far Cry New Dawn just shown, with over 100 FPS possible at low settings. Fortnite was tested with the replay feature, and as a well-optimized game, it was running very well at epic settings, almost able to average 100 FPS. Overwatch was also performing very well and is another well-optimized game. I tested it in the practice range, and even with epic settings, the frame rate was extremely high, easily able to take full advantage of the 144Hz screen at 1080p. Shadow of the Tomb Raider was tested with the built-in benchmark, and I found this to be more of a graphically intensive test, with 100 FPS possible at low settings and above 60 at highest settings. PUBG was tested using the replay feature, and the results were good for this test, with 100 FPS averages possible at high settings, but not really too much of a difference between the different levels. CSGO was tested using the Analytical FPS benchmark, so as usual, high frame rates were easily achievable with a 1080p resolution. Rainbow Six Siege was tested with the built-in benchmark, and as a game I found to benefit from Nvidia's new Turing architecture, which means we're seeing very high frame rates from this test. Assassin's Creed Odyssey was another that was tested with the built-in benchmark, and it seems to be a poorly optimized game. However, doesn't need a high frame rate to play, so these results aren't too bad. Dota 2 was tested playing in the middle lane with an average amount of action going on, and even with all settings at maximum, 120 FPS was possible, so it was running perfectly fine without any problems. Watch Dogs 2 is a resource-intensive game, although it doesn't need a high frame rate to play. A solid 30 FPS is enough for me, so even at ultra settings, it was running well on this laptop. Ghost Recon is another demanding game and was tested using the built-in benchmark, and most laptops that I test aren't able to handle ultra settings in this game, though the 2070 Max-Q didn't do too badly here, with almost 100 FPS possible at low settings. The Witcher 3 was also playing very well with Hairworks disabled, and even with ultra settings it played perfectly fine. I don't think this game really needs a high frame rate, so 90 FPS is just fine. Shadow of War was tested with the built-in benchmark, and is another game that I've found to benefit from Nvidia's new Turing architecture. As a result, the performance in this test was also quite good. Let's also take a look at how the Apex-15X compares with some other laptops to see how it stacks up. Use these results as a rough guide only, as they were tested at different times with different versions of Nvidia drivers. In Battlefield 5, I've got the Apex-15X down the bottom in red, and we can see it's a bit faster than the Aero 15X9, due to the CPU throttling I noted in my Aero review. Otherwise, it's only a little ahead of the RTX 2060, while the 2080 Max-Q in the Asus GX701 is well ahead. Here are the results from Far Cry 5 with ultra settings, and similar results here too. Interestingly, the 1% low was the same in the Apex-15X and the 2080 Max-Q laptop. Perhaps a CPU bottleneck once a certain level of GPU power is available. Still great average FPS though. These are the results from Shadow of the Tomb Raider with the built-in benchmark at highest settings. And the results follow the same trend as the other games, with the 2070 Max-Q in the Apex-15X performing nicely, though not too far ahead of the 2060 in the Aorus 15. The Apex-15X gaming laptop performed quite well in all of the games tested. The 2070 Max-Q graphics, i7-8750H CPU, and dual-channel memory are a fairly powerful combination, capable of easily playing any of the games tested at 1080p even with higher settings. It of course depends on the game. Some will need lower settings if you want to instead target a higher frame rate to utilize the 144Hz screen. So how do you guys think the Apex-15X gaming laptop from Aftershock did in these games? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments, and if you're new here, get subscribed so you don't miss the full review of the Apex-15X.